Obviously, I need to make the cake part first, and this is an easy melt in a pan number. Beginning with 200 grams of butter, followed by 250 mils of hot water. Then I add 50 grams of cocoa, 125 grams of caster sugar, and 100 grams of soft dark brown sugar. I gently whisk everything together over very low heat until smooth. Into this melted mixture, I stir in a couple of teaspoons of vanilla before taking the pan off the heat. In a small bowl, I mix together 225 grams of plain flour, half a teaspoon of bicarb, and a teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, nearly there. I beat together 2 large eggs, then mix them into the slightly cooled pan. Then gradually whisk in the dry ingredients until absorbed, and I have a gorgeous glossy batter. I pour this into 4 shallow tier cake tins and bake for 7 minutes in a 180-degree centigrade oven or 160 fan. Though you could simply divide the mixture between 2 sandwich tins and bake for 15 to 20 minutes. Well, the cakes are made and the icing is underway. I've got 300 grams of unsalted butter and 400 grams of peanut butter whirring away in here. And now half a teaspoon of fine sea salt. I think it's quite important there is a pronounced saltiness to this icing. It's what stops it becoming cloying. And now 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I'm ready to whisk in the icing sugar now. There's 600 grams of icing sugar there, which I have sieved through gritted teeth. It's the only job I hate in the kitchen. There's a lot of sugar, a lot of butter, a lot of peanut butter, but then I am creating a beautiful monster. It looks quite thick and condensed now, but everything is going to change. And what changes it is whipping in double cream. 8 tablespoons, that's about 120 mils, one at a time. And what really makes a difference is that now that all the cream is added, I just stand back and let it carry on whisking for about 4 minutes. I love the colours of this cake. So 70s, very Bieber actually, with its golden beige and brown. Now look at this, so pale and creamy and voluminous. Time to build my tower of cakes. I do have to say something, which is when you make the 4 ultra-thin layers, you will think something's gone wrong. Look, these look thin as a burnt pancake, but that's what they're meant to be like. And when they're all layered with the icing, it will look absolutely perfect. I'm not suggesting you get a ruler out, but the idea is to dollop and then spread a layer 1 centimetre thick between all the cakes. It doesn't matter if it goes over the edges, it'll just make it easier to ice the sides later. I'm going to put this one on top. Don't be worried about running out of icing, you won't. The 3rd cake on top. Be careful because they are tender. So 1 centimetre on top, as well as in between each layer. And then the serious business of the sides. But don't be daunted. I always feel slightly overwhelmed at the beginning when I start on the sides. By the end, I almost have to have the cake prized out of my hands to make me stop. It's so moussey, it almost looks like honeycomb turned into buttercream. I am such an impatient person, but I rather love doing this. I find it calming. You just have to give yourself up to it. And remember, you're not supplying a cake shop. It doesn't have to be, you know, so perfect and with no sign of human touch. What I like about home cooking is that you see the hand. You can see that someone's been troweling their cake for a long time. Oh. I could go on smoothing for eternity, but I must stop. As Ruskin said, a work of art is never finished, it is merely abandoned. So I will abandon it. Well, maybe not quite, because whenever I finished icing it, I want to leave it smooth because I love it. It looks so beautiful. But really, this cake is at its best with a little fine scattering of chopped, dry roasted peanuts, a teeny bit of crunch. You know, I make this cake for celebrations, but the act of making it and decorating it feels like a celebration to me in itself. Normally, when you line a tin, you have to be very neat and fastidious, which is really not my strong point. So I love making this cheesecake because all the crinkles and wrinkles are part of the look. I'm aiming for rustic ramshackleness. But I do need to weigh it down when I actually get on with the cheesecake. Unsurprisingly, we're starting with cream cheese. Quite a lot of it, 600 grams. And this has stood out of the fridge for quite a time. This makes the crucial difference with cheesecake. If you start off with it cold, it never gets really smooth. And 175 grams of caster sugar. Just going to put it all in now before I get a whirring. I just want to mix these together till they're really creamy. It's a very easy cheesecake to make. I mean, there is no base, and everything just needs to be mixed up and then baked. And into the soft cream cheese, 3 eggs, one at a time, so that each egg is incorporated into the mixture before I add the next one. Time for numero dos. My 3rd egg. And next, some sour cream, quite a lot, 300 mils. This is like essence of cheesecake, all its purest tastes. No lemon, no vanilla. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And corn flour. I'm going to turn this down a bit because otherwise I'll just get covered. I want 25 grams of corn flour. Add gradually. I just want to make sure that the corn flour is completely absorbed, which it is. Get out my placeholder. See, look, it's lying down now, and all those creases look rather wonderful when it's unwrapped at the end. A final fold by hand. And as pale as the mixture is now, when it's ready and it's been in the oven for 50 minutes, at a hotter oven than you would normally cook cheesecake, 200 or 180 fan, it's going to be burnished on top, brown in parts. Well, it is a burnt cheesecake, but it is very jiggly underneath. Just have to trust me when I say it's ready, because it will carry on cooking as it cools, but it's meant to be soft set. That's part of its lusciousness. And before I put this in the oven, I like this part, I need to give it 5 firm raps on the kitchen counter to get rid of any air bubbles. So here goes. Just out of the oven, still hot. And you can see it's risen rather like a dense souffle. It will fall as it cools, as it's supposed to. And look, underneath that tortoiseshell top, it's still wiggly and wibbly. Perfect. Now for the licorice sauce. I start off with 300 millilitres of water in a pan, and I add 90 grams of caster sugar. Then I add 15 grams of pure licorice pellets. And once they're dissolved, I boil it all up until reduced by half. At which point, I pour the sticky dark syrup into a heat-proof jug. I live for salty licorice, so I stir in salt before leaving the sauce to get properly cold. Gently lift the cool cheesecake out of the tin, then peel back the paper, flatten it, and cut into luscious slices. This is just gorgeous with blackberries on the side. And now, all that remains is for me to enjoy a moment of silent communion with my licorice-laced cheesecake. There is more to overripe bananas than banana bread. And these specimens are destined for my chocolate tahini pudding cake to be eaten warm and squidgy and dolloped with cream. Now, they really are on their last legs. Excellent. I'll explain later. Right, so these bananas need mashing. Won't take long. Right, so they're ready for some oil, 60 mils. This is vegetable oil. In it goes, followed swiftly by 50 grams of tahini, which very conveniently fits into this little American quarter cup measure and won't stick because of the oil. And what tahini brings is not just that sublime sesame smokiness, but also a luscious texture. Also using this little measure, 50 grams of full-fat Greek yogurt. And I need a teaspoon of vanilla. Now sugars, 50 grams of caster sugar and 50 grams too of soft dark brown sugar with all its gorgeous treacliness. 1 large egg and beat till smooth. So now I'm going to get my dry ingredients organised. Chiefly, of course, flour, but not a great deal. I need 60 grams of flour. This is plain flour, but you can use gluten-free as well. Half a teaspoon of bicarb. Quarter of a teaspoon of fine sea salt. And I promised you chocolate, and here it is in its first manifestation, 25 grams of cocoa. Just want to fork everything together before I add the contents of this bowl to this beautiful buff-coloured batter, which will, of course, suddenly become a wonderful deep reddy brown. I'm going to fold in the last bit by hand. And I have more chocolate to add in the form of 100 grams of dark chocolate chips. Right, this just needs to go into my little oven dish. And by the time this has had 40 minutes in a moderate oven, by which I mean 180 Celsius or 160 if you've got the fan on, it'll be set on top, sumptuously tender underneath, and with a warm molten centre. Look at that little beauty. And underneath that soft crust, you can see in the cracks there, it's dark and puddingy and melting. And no, I'm not going in. I've burnt my mouth on this so often that I'm going to let it stand there while I get on with the tahini cream. I've got 125 mils of double cream. And to that, I'm adding 2 teaspoons of tahini. I took the cream out of the fridge some time ago because I find that helps it thicken fast, and although tahini often makes it thicken faster anyway, so it should be just a few little stirs. And it is exactly the right texture. Well, I can hold myself away from it no longer. Oh, yeah. A dollop or two of this softly whipped tahini cream. And a real treat, date molasses, like sticky toffee pudding in a bottle. so gorgeous. This needs to be eaten in calm and appreciative silence.